AI and big data is front and center of every tech discussion today. There's huge interest across industries and sectors on how to use AI to create large efficiencies, but also on how to use big data and AI to unravel breakthrough vaccines, treatments, and new innovations. The promise of AI is exciting. And so today's topic around skilling of AI becomes very important because without a skilled workforce to create and build AI systems, and also without training workforce around how to use and adopt AI tools, we miss out on the opportunity to bring this cutting edge technology mainstream. Judging from the interest in this panel discussions and all our other research scoping work, I believe we also had 600 registrations for this. But essentially, there's a large talent pool in India and globally looking to upskill in AI. So having all of you here in the panel to shed some light on this will be extremely helpful for the community. So thank you again for being here. We're on a tight schedule, so with a lot of ground to cover, so we'll just jump right into it. Dr. Jayajit, while we're hearing so much about the promise of AI, there's also a lot of hype around it. Can you help us break through this noise and give us a candid picture of where we are with AI today? And also, if you could throw some light on how AI has progressed in the last decade. And perhaps if you can look into your crystal glass, what does AI look like in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, Ankita, fortunately, AI is one of those technologies which actually cannot be overhyped. It really has a significant potential. Now, AI has been around for decades now, right? In fact, way back in 1958, Professor Rosenblatt came out with the first AI algorithms, which he was calling as perceptron. Now, things did not really move forward for the next few decades till the beginning of this decade because we did not have the fundamental infrastructure in place. So we did not have enough data, we did not have structured data, we did not have enough fast networks in place, not enough sensors, not enough compute power to actually compute it in an acceptable time frame, and so on and so forth. So what really changed in the beginning of this decade is that suddenly all of these underlying infrastructure that was needed to actually churn these algorithms and to crunch the numbers that are needed to come out with anything which is really usable came into place. So we have massive compute power at our disposal. We've got fast networks, we've got sensors all over the place, and therefore we are rapidly moving towards a situation where we can expect a singularity in terms of AI to happen. There's an explosion of AI. So from the beginning of this decade, we have been seeing that AI is being rapidly deployed for many, many things. And as Dr. Katragada was mentioning, AI is being used for all kinds of things, from healthcare to natural language processing, and you name it, AI is being used for it. In fact, it's not very far away that we can have AI actually figuring out new drug molecules, at least new chemical entities which could be good candidates, because they can really go around and search through the plethora of existing knowledge base and see which are the chemical entities which are already marked as toxic, which are the chemical entities which will actually lock in with the protein which needs to be addressed, and so on and so forth. And that goes for every single sector that we have out there. And therefore, there is expected to be an explosion of AI. And therefore, my initial comment that you can't really overhype AI. If you look at the current situation, if you want to open a car door, can the car figure out that you want to do it based on your actions, based on the fact that you're moving towards a car? Answer is absolutely yes, it could possibly do that. And therefore, in every area of life, you'll have AI coming in a very, very seamless manner. Pretty much like when you pick up the phone and you do a booking, you don't realize it's actually going through an IT system. It's become part of life. You'll be surprised if there is a person on the other side who's picking up the booking. Similarly, it will be, and we already are in that situation where AI is very much embedded in our way of life. When you write a simple email, the system which prompts you to fill up the next few words and to fill up that sentence, actually AI, and we don't even give it a second thought. So that's where Ankita we are moving towards, and it's going to be a very, very interesting world as the AI developments unfold in front of us.
I'm going to go to Dr. Jayajit. I know you have to leave shortly, So I want to bring the question to you, and this is really around skilling of AI for the non-STEM cohort. We heard from speakers, Priya and other speakers, that spoke about the need for the larger ecosystem to understand AI, to understand how to use AI as a tool, and to really bring them mainstream into this technology that's going to really sort of take over a lot of sectors and a lot of aspects of the industry. What are your thoughts around the skilling of this demographic, and as a policy and working with the government, do you see any initiatives that are taking place? Over to you.
Ankita, very, very good question, because that's unfortunately an area which is not really been focused at. Because most of the skilling is actually on the hard skilling of building the AI. But when you are looking at just plain surviving as a citizen in an ecosystem which is fraught with AI, imagine the kind of social engineering based assaults that can happen. If an AI can figure out that you're going to write some sentence in the next second, it can also figure out many other things about you. And given the plethora of data that is around us, clearly there will be such challenges coming in, because triangulation to find out the information about a particular person becomes much more easier. But keeping that part aside, because that's more about a general awareness, we have not even have programs around teaching our children on how to survive in the cyber world. So we have a long way to go in teaching people in general on how to survive in the cyber world as well as in the AI enabled world. But also there is a whole large number of people who will end up becoming simple managers, right? They will have to come out with new processes. You have the whole robotic process automation, which is essentially based on AI. How does one figure out that what is the kind of process you need to make? To take an example, if you're designing a smart city, you'd like to make sure that people are able to wake up based on the timing of the flight instead of based on a particular timing. So if your flight is supposed to leave at 7, it takes an hour for you to reach the airport, then you back calculate and say, okay, let me put the alarm at 6 o'clock. But if the flight gets delayed, how is that going to talk back to your phone? How are you going to wake up at the right time? And how is it going to actually inform the cab that you're supposed to come up in this person's house at the right time? And you get into that cab, and that takes you to the airport. So all of that orchestration needs to be done by people who understand AI and processes, and not necessarily about people who are going to actually build that system. Also, there are issues around the regulatory side. What if something goes wrong? What if that alarm did not go off at the right time, and there was something wrong in the way the AI was built up? There are regulatory challenges to it. Do we have lawyers who can actually step in and create the right kind of frameworks and right kind of contracts, which are going to put the liability on the right set of people? Is it the algorithm which is liable? Is it the company which is selling the algorithm which is liable? Or if it's put into a car, is the car liable? Is it the driver or the owner liable? So those are regulatory issues that needs to be built in, and therefore we need to have a whole bunch of lawyers who are skilled in that area. Now, if you look at even an area like history, there's a whole bunch of AI that will go into history. We already see lidar being used along with AI to figure out civilizations that are being found out using that kind of technology. And clearly, AI will be getting into history, into music, into art. And you notice that musicians who have been able to adopt technology much earlier have been able to come out with excellent music. And therefore, if you take that forward, musicians who are able to adopt AI will be able to come out with even better music. And therefore, those are the kind of trainings that we need to put in. And we are a long way off in bringing that kind of a skilling infrastructure into our society and into our education system.